Hello, Governor. Today we're talking about the Grand Prix at Silverstone, England. It's a lovely day.
Look at this, Joel. 22 degrees, middle of winter, not a cloud in the sky.
Climate change, it's a real thing.
Thank you. Climate change.
Right about now, it should be hailstorms, water, etc. In a couple of seconds, Jason will show you what's going around. This place that we're driving through right now is gorgeous.
You know, it's a little bit egotistical to talk about your own suburb in this way, Joel, when you live here, down this street.
I live here for a
I'm
reason.
just about to show you Joel's home, in case
I
you
wish.
people are wondering where he lives, what he does with his spare time.
And as usual, today, the Daddies give you the top 5 happenings of Silverstone.
Is that your English accent?
Everybody's
Lay
a
it on
critic.
us, Joel. What have we got?
Everybody's a critic. It was a brilliant race. Probably the most exciting race of the season so far, in my opinion. It had everything. It had some DNFs, had some crashes, had some really, really nice battles.
It had more of the same, didn't it, Joel?
Yeah,
With
it
some
had
of
more
those
of
that
the
were expected to crash and did crash.
Yeah.
Or am
Oh,
I
look.
a little bit too early in my appraisal? You know what?
Jason and his love-hate relationship with Grosjean.
You just ruined it. You've stolen my thunder. What I was going to say was, in many respects, for me personally, this race was somewhat of a redemption. It brought some of the elements back of what I'd been saying since the beginning of the season, and the Grosjean incident was one.
Number 5. Max Verstappen. Feel really, really unfortunate for him. He was legitimately challenging for P3.
Yep.
Really, really nice backwards and forwards battle between himself and Kimi.
Yep.
And unfortunately, ended up with an issue with his brakes, where I think what they're reporting so far is the fact that a brake wire snapped or something happened.
Brake-by-wire system, I believe, yeah?
Brake wire system.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he had to not finish, which is a really, really unfortunate thing, because he's been racing really, really well. He's been nice and clean, even with his aggressiveness. Oh, look, the whole reason why we like Max in the first place is in point in case the aggressiveness of the overtaking and the defending against Kimi for P4. It was an amazing backwards and forwards battle to watch. Thoughts, Jason?
I commend him on his efforts and his good driving abilities, but he is Joel's team, and for those who still haven't seen the video, it's worth checking out. There's a number of opinions coming through. It's very good. Great driving from him. He didn't deserve to have the DNF.
Just to point out a few things, the Ferrari head and shoulders, that engine basically just creams the Renault engine, but the Red Bull chassis really did have a lot of speed in those corners, and it was quite interesting to see that particular battle.
An interesting fact for those that may not have already seen or heard of this: since Monaco, the qualifying pace and race performances of Verstappen have surpassed those of Ricciardo, which I guess probably has put a little bit of pressure back on Ricciardo's performance, and potentially what he even may be able to ask Joel from his contract negotiations at or around the summer period that's about to come up. Now, if this performance result this weekend didn't materialise Ricciardo's way and again fell to Verstappen, which it could have done very easily and probably deservingly so, would it have been a detriment to Ricciardo? What do you reckon?
Very possibly. And look, this is paddock talk around now, where 2019, who knows where a few drivers will end up, if they end up in teams at all. I think it's really unfortunate, the situation that Kimi Räikkönen may find himself in a forced retirement, which I think would be absolutely ludicrous.
He's now sitting third in the championship points, and that gap is really condensing quite tightly in the top there. So he's doing an unbelievable job, isn't he?
He is. And let's talk about more a little bit later. Number 4, this is something that Jason and I have been talking about a lot recently, and stay tuned for a video which we're going to bring out very, very soon, where we discuss the misfortune that has befallen Valtteri Bottas. Seriously, the amount of times he's had a DNF through things that were out of his control, somebody's hit him, or bad team strategy. I really feel sorry for Bottas this season, and especially since I think he is legitimately quick. He is a fast, clean driver, and if it wasn't for a lot of these incidents, arguably, I do believe he would be challenging for World Championship. So continuing on from that, also the rest of the Mercedes team deciding to go with the same strategy where they only did the one stop. And Lewis Hamilton coming and racing from behind all the way from P18 to P2. Lewis ran a very, very nice clean race, taking advantage of the one-stop scenario. He managed to clear the back end of the field. Didn't really have to fight too hard from P6 to P2. He basically picked up P3 due to Red Bull pit and the Ferrari pitting, ultimately finishing with a P2. Your boy Lewis Hamilton.
That love affair, I've got to be honest, Joel, is very quickly diminishing, and this is a whole other topic and a whole lot of noise going on this weekend around his race conduct.
I'd just like to point out that Lewis's race conduct recently has been a little bit disappointing for me. I thought that he'd started to turn a bit of a leaf in terms of his maturity and the way that he was presenting himself. But more and more recently, he's been coming out with these things where when he wins, he's so happy.
Yeah.
Congratulations, my team. We did well. We won as a team. But as soon as he loses, it becomes...
Toys are out of the pram.
Oh, poor team strategy.
Yeah.
And this weekend, the Ferraris took me out of the race intentionally. What?
Yeah. A suggestion that any team is going to actually knowingly destroy their own chances and just so precisely take out a competitor, but yet still able to retain themselves in the race.
Look,
it's just a ludicrous
it is absolutely ludicrous. And Sebastian Vettel said it best.
Yeah.
Even paraphrasing, of course, but he basically said he's not a good enough driver to be able to deliberately take out another driver and still remain in the race and pick up points. Point in case is France, where he basically hit Bottas, damaged his front wing, and P3 was the best that he possibly can do. And that's why I say that's due to driver skill that he actually managed to pick up P3 at all.
You know, there are people that have had a really, really tough weekend, like Leclerc,
Yeah.
who could have arguably himself been
Feel
someone that
very, very sorry for Leclerc. He was running a very good race.
Joel, how do people like him, who are much younger in years, handle themselves with the utmost professionalism, don't they? And he carries himself so well on the pits.
Walk of life, different culture. Unfortunately, Lewis has a little bit of a history of that from the past. And just for everybody out there, just keep in mind the fact that Jason and myself, while I might tongue-in-cheek say things like this, I am most definitely not a Lewis Hamilton hater.
No, arguably we're his biggest critic and fan all in one. We just don't want him to behave in a way that is not befitting of what is meant to be a champion. A champion, by definition, isn't just somebody who wins races, right? It's the way they conduct themselves.
That's correct.
And are an ambassador of the sport. And
That's
at the
correct.
moment, he's not behaving a little bit like one.
And that's the point that I've been making about Sebastian Vettel for quite a while now, is the fact that the way that he conducts himself now, regardless of whether he's winning or he's losing, he's just the consummate professional.
The way both of those two, Kimi and Vettel, handle that tough question from the media
Absolutely.
afterwards was very, very...
And look, they don't call Kimi the Iceman for no reason. And that's why I think that he does well for himself in media scenarios, is the fact that he just doesn't blow up. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't need to make silly statements. Point 3! In lap 39, we have a scenario where Grosjean and Sainz touch paint. We're into the corner. Grosjean basically had a little bit of an oversteer scenario, corrected into an overtaking Carlos Sainz.
And was baffled that it even occurred to begin with. Is that code for him saying, I can't believe what just happened? And then
I think his
exact accent, by the way.
That was terrible. But look,
Thanks,
look, on Team Radio Chatter, you can clearly hear Grosjean coming out and actually saying, "You turned into me, mate." It's called overtaking.
Probably
you lost control.
Better places on the track to overtake. Granted, nonetheless, he knew he was coming through.
Space.
And that overcorrection on that corner caused the
more than enough space.
car.
If that had happened a few laps on, we could have been in a scenario where Valtteri Bottas actually would have won that race due to the race finishing underneath the safety car. Wow. Sorry, we've just come over the crest of a hill and the sun is going down on the river right now, and this stuff looks amazing. In fact, we're going to park the car, jump out and grab a drone shot of this, because you all need to see this. This is amazing.
Cut the drone shot.
Okay, so continuing on after that epic scene. So Bottas did a good job of just bunching up the pole pack, forcing Vettel to have to watch out for cars coming behind. Ultimately ended up with Grosjean and Sainz obviously DNFing out, which is really, really unfortunate for both cars, especially considering the good weekend that Grosjean had last weekend in Silverstone. And Sainz, really, really unfortunate. He very mature about the whole scenario. Mistakes happen, took it on the chin like a trooper. But if I were him, I would have been super not happy. So point number 2, right in the first lap, straight off the bat, Vettel takes out P1. Everybody's jostling for position. Turn 3 comes around and Kimi Räikkönen, a little bit of understeer due to the weight of the car with all the fuel on it. Unfortunately has a little bit of a wheel touch, cause Hamilton to spin off the field, lose position all the way back to P18. And of course, Kimi picked up a 10-second penalty. I'm still trying to work out why he gets 10 seconds and not the same 5 that Vettel picked up in France.
Opponents out there suggesting that the severity of the incident with the impact that it has on the championship lead with Hamilton versus Vettel had some part to play. But how do you draw distinctions from that, Joel? I don't think you can make a 5-10 second determination based on that. I mean, I don't know where the sciences apply.
Kimi put his hand up and took the points like a champion.
Yeah.
Like literally, he really did. Admitted to his own fault. He knew it was his error. Okay? But at the same time, the amount of rule books they keep getting thrown at the drivers now is starting to become a little bit ridiculous. Some mentionables. Charles Leclerc, lap 19, straight out of the pit lane.
Yeah.
What looks like a loose wheel nut or a damaged wheel nut or something has to DNF straight out of the pit lane.
The noteworthy topic this season on tyres. We're seeing all of the top 10 positions, with the only exception of Renault, starting on mediums. Hulkenberg, what a race. He's top of the second tier drivers, consistently putting in those performances. And I think we finished in P6. Now, he only did a one-stop tyre strategy as a result of the mediums to hards.
That's right.
With his tyre change, he moved to the hard, didn't have to stop.
Just pushing on from that, in terms of tyres, you see Alonso coming in to do his second pit with everybody else, the top 3 constructors, that is, or top 2 constructors, I should say, because Mercedes did pit. And he moved into the yellow ward tyres, the softs, which is what enabled him to basically challenge Magnussen. Ultimately picks up P8. Kudos to McLaren, kudos to Alonso for, seriously, that man just needs to be renamed Fast on Race Day, because his qualifying are horrible. Epic battle. That was basically Kimi Räikkönen and Max Verstappen for P4. Really, really nice backwards and forwards battle, as we kind of mentioned before. Valtteri Bottas on some very fastly degrading medium tyres, holding off Sebastian Vettel for a good 2-3 laps. And Vettel was on fresh softs.
Gasly and Perez, we had an issue there late into the race where Gasly attempted to overtake Perez, ran Perez off the track, was penalised, a 5-second penalty which took him out of the P10 position that he got, relegated into P13, brought Van Dorn P12 into P11. A deserving penalty there of Gasly, I think, for that type of race conduct.
So, and the last thing that we probably want to talk about in terms of the men is the 2 Williams starting from the pit. So the Williams coming out of the pit almost got cleaned up by Ocon.
Yeah,
that was quite...
I thought you were going to say Grosjean there, but that was around about 50 days too early.
Mate.
But yes, the Williams are starting from the pits, for those that didn't know, because they had some DRS open closure issues. At the point the DRS is actually closing, they weren't getting the downforce on the rear end, and they had to lift and coast and activate DRS, and that was causing them to lose lap time. So allegedly they've had to put on a new and older rear wing for both cars. That was a technical specification change, bringing about the penalty, and therefore starting from the pit lane. Number 1. Lay on me, Joel.
Lap 32, Marcus Ericsson spins out of control due to a DRS corner. Massive smash into the tyres, brings out the safety car, which then brings out a whole raft of things that start to happen from this. And we need to start listing these things off. Vettel, Verstappen and Kimi quickly come in for a pit stop and take advantage of the safety car during this time, of course. Bottas moves into first position. Vettel relegated to second place, comes out of the pit in between Bottas and Hamilton. Mercedes decide not to pit Bottas. Mercedes has been making some questionable decisions on tactics during race since the beginning of the year. That's some well-needed points that Bottas could have picked up. And the last thing that I want to point out with that, which is a very, very unfortunate thing, shout out to our boy Daniel Ricciardo. Very unfortunate call where they decided to pit and change Daniel's tyres literally 1-2 laps before Ericsson spins out and brings out the safety car, where everybody takes advantage of that to change their tyres. Daniel missed out. Driver of the day, Kimi Räikkönen. Gotta give it to him. He's one of the coolest dudes on the field. Despite the fact that he had a little bit of an error, other than that, he drove an amazing race and finally finished P3, but that was a really, really hard-earned P3. Yeah. He had to battle Ricciardo. He had to battle Max. He had to battle Bottas.
And you mentioned he did drop to P10. You did mention that, right?
I forgot to mention that. Kimi dropped to P10 due to when he came in for his pit stop.
I think, Joel, I'll give this one to you, buddy.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Hockenheim. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
See you later.
Bye.